Hello. Today I'd like to talk about a topic that's near and dear to everybody on a daily basis, which is using Gmail. We pretty much live in Gmail. We check it all the time. Some check more, some check less. But the bottom line being email, it's by far the most used. And so basic use of Gmail, everybody understands. Everybody knows how to use it. We're not going to cover that because, like I said, everybody knows. But in the past, I've done a video about using Gmail as a database, and it received decent amount of attention. Today, I'm going to actually kind of expand on that topic and revisit it for those who haven't seen my old video. It's not really a revolutionary concept in terms of what I'm going to talk about, but at the same time, it's something that is worth looking into and potentially using for various things that you might want to use it for. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about the fact that if you look at an email, and so let's create a new email here, for example. In the body of email, we can do a number of things. We can put in some text, and we can put in as much text as we want, obviously. We can also paste things in there. So if we have a text we had in some document somewhere, we can paste it in here now. We can also add images if we wanted to. So we just simply either copy and paste an image from somewhere else, or we can just select the little paperclip here and pick the image you want to stick, and then we click on open and it attaches the image for us. And if we don't want to attach it, if we want to actually drop it in there right inside the email itself, we can find a different image, for example, copy it here in Control-C, and then when we go here and paste it, is going to drop it right inside the email itself, as opposed to being attached like this image here is. So basically very capable to do this kind of stuff, very easy, doesn't require much effort. It's got some basic rich text formatting capabilities, so we can format things a little bit and things like that. But the biggest plus of Gmail, in my opinion, is its search bar. I mean, it's fast, number one, and you can find anything you want by just typing in a few keywords or a few pieces of information, and it'll find you all the emails that fit. In addition to that, in terms of organization, you also have, of course, the labels. So you can have all these different labels, and you can name them anything you want, and you can attach them to different emails, and then by just simply clicking on the label, then you get something meaningful here, which would be this right there. And we get all the emails that basically fit the label. And then we can click on any of these emails to check them out, and you know how that part works. So it's simple, number one. It's mostly known by people how to use it, number two. And so when we're talking about new applications, when they come out, you have to learn the interface, you have to learn the functionality, all this stuff. There's a learning curve involved. And learning curve can be from very simple and quick to taking you hours and hours and hours to try to figure out how the damn thing works. Pardon my French here. And everybody obviously has different level of savviness when it comes to technology. So, it's different for different people. But again, going back to Gmail, because everybody is using it, it's a totally different learning curve because you already know how the thing works right from the box. So what can you do that's different other than sending and receiving emails? And this is where I entered what I call collections. I used to call database, whatever you want to call it. But the bottom line is that when information comes into Gmail, then, we see it as an email. I mean, it's right there. Email, it's got all the information there. It's got some graphics, things like that. So nothing new. But if you think about initially creating an email, like if I go to compose, and if I just start typing something like, this is an example of an email that I'll deal with later. Okay, so let's say I put this text in. If I don't send it to anybody, which of course right now I couldn't because I didn't specify who it should be going to, all I have to do at this point is just simply close it. Now what happens at this point? At this point, the way Gmail works is when you create a new email, initially it goes into a folder called drafts. And that particular email I was just working on, easily accessible because you just click on the drafts folder here, and you're able to see all your emails that you started but didn't actually send. Whenever your email gets sent, Then from drafts, it moves into the sent folder, which is right there. Okay, so you can easily see what you've sent, when you've sent it, and you can also see what you've started but haven't sent. And this is where the collections concept comes from. Since you can create these little snippets initially of any kind of information, whether it's for email or not, or this is an example of an email, this is an example of collection. In other words, we can change any of this information anyway. So let's say this is a collection. I can change the information, I can close the window, and move on with my life. When I get back to drafts and look at this email, now it says it's a collection, it's not an email anymore. So changes are instantaneous, which is exactly what you want. Don't need to worry about any kind of saving or anything else. You just do what you need and then you get out. That's it. And then when you get out, it keeps it in the drafts folder permanently. So we're always going through the drafts folder when we initially start creating new emails, and then it moves from drafts into the sent, because that's how the whole thing works. But in this particular case, nobody says we have to send the email. Okay? Nobody says that. So basically you have information you can put and store in this particular repository, which winds up in drafts, and you can just use it later on as you see fit. For example, we have this draft message here called "This is an example of a collection." So let's go ahead and take the part of it. Let's say example of a collection. Let's copy it and let's go ahead and close the window, and then go to inbox so it doesn't know what we were looking at. We're looking at totally something else. And then here we say example of a collection. We put in double quotes to make sure it finds the actual whole string like that, and we say search for it, and there it is in draft right there. And it shows you exactly what you were looking for. And you can see how quick it is, even though I have thousands and thousands of messages in my Gmail. I mean, maybe even tens of thousands at this point, okay? When you look at it from that perspective, then you can see that it's a very convenient way to find information. And that's how we usually find emails. But again, going back to my concept of collections, what if you were to set up a collection of things that, for example, store certain images? Like, for example, I have this email here, not email, I shouldn't call them emails. I have this message here, and you can see there is a image, one of my images. This says Style Efremov, which is one of my favorite painters from the old country. And then I click on this one, and this is a different image, and it's me in Nagel style, it says, as a subject line. So if we were to go and search for label collections AI images, which is what I call this, AI images, it will actually find everything that is stored with these labels and these emails. Just like any other emails you put labels on, the same thing applies to drafts. And you can easily find them by clicking on the label on the left side here. So now we have a way to not only categorize a bunch of information, but we also have a way to easily get to it using search. Okay? And then if we wanted to go one step further, we can say, you know what, since I do this all the time, I'm going to grab this little icon here at the top of the window here, the address bar, and I'm just going to drag it to my bookmarks bar. And I'm going to change the name to say image collections. So now what we have is we have a bookmark that we can see it's a Gmail bookmark because of the logo there, and it says image collections. So if we go and anywhere else, we go to PCS time tracker, I don't care, whatever we go to, if we pull up that page and we sit on that page, we can then easily, at any point in time, because we can click on the bookmarks anytime, we click on image collections, and boom, Gmail opens up. Well, not exactly boom, but fast enough. And then it goes ahead and pulls up just those draft messages we had that have this label, which happens to be things that are images, okay? And there's the image there. Quick way to store information, be able to change it any way we want, and you can put as much information in there as you want. It doesn't have to be just an image or just some text. You can have a whole paragraphs, formatting, everything. You can practically have a whole document stored in here with images and everything else, and you have access to everything. You can have links, you can have audio files attached, everything you do in Gmail you can do with this thing. But the beauty is you can easily access it like this, and then if you use the approach I just showed you with the bookmarks, you can even create folders with all kinds of bookmarks with these collections. So for example, one of the collections I have is AI images here. Another collection I have, just as a sample, just to show you, is text notes. So I have, text note here, just has some information about this project I'm going to be working on, and text note here that just, a little sample text note. But you can have as many of these text notes as you want. The question becomes is, okay, we have Google Keep that has a way to keep track of all kinds of little notes and including images, everything else. Why would you use this? Because Google Keep also has ability to search and ability to even do OCR. I mean, it's got a bunch of capabilities that we'll leave for a different video tutorial. But in this case, the reason I still advocate for this in certain cases, as opposed to Google Keep, even though there's nothing wrong with Keep or any other note-taking or information-taking application, is because, again, we live in Gmail, okay? That's what makes this more compelling than using any other app, is because you have to go to that app, you have to learn how to use that app. This, you don't have to learn anything, number one. And number two, you're in this app all the time anyway, all day long, because you're dealing with emails, you're sending, you're receiving, everything else. So having this built in allows you to have that much more functionality directly using the interface you already know, because we live in Gmail, okay? That's the reason. It's not because it's better. It's just good enough to use, and it's got all kinds of capabilities. So it's not just you use it because you don't have any other choice. You use it because you're in Gmail all the time, so you might as well use it for this as well. In other words, you can store any and all information you wish. And then, of course, because of search, let's say you were looking for a project, any of your projects, and you just start all your projects inside in terms of their names with the word project, colon, and nothing else. So if you search for project colon, it comes up with everything that matches that. Of course, it's got a bunch of other stuff too. It's probably not the best word to use. I would use something a little bit more unique. So then when you do a search, only those emails will come up. But there is this Jefferson Landscaping project. Okay, it comes right up. So it doesn't matter if you have emails or if you have drafts, it'll still come up. And that's another good thing to remember, that you might be looking for information that's not just in drafts, but in emails, okay? So then it winds up basically giving you everything that's related to this thing. If I set project Jefferson Landscaping, for example, then I would get that particular entry as the first entry there. Everything else is related to it, so basically a bunch of emails. But if I said that and we're only looking at the collection, I would say in draft, if I do that, then you see we only get this one entry right here because that's the only thing I have for Project Jefferson Landscaping in drafts folder. Okay? So hopefully you see the immense possibilities here. In my opinion, they are immense. That you can use this combination of doing the searching and storing the information easily to be able to really populate your Gmail with all kinds of information that you can then classify. And you can classify it using labels, so you can easily get right to it. Or you can classify it, or I shouldn't say or, and you can also classify it by just using certain keywords inside the email itself, certain subject lines, because the search here is very powerful. You can type in draft, you can type in, subject, colon, and you can put in whatever the subject you're looking for. So there's all these different keywords that you can use when you do search on Gmail to really help you identify what you're looking for. And then they have these very helpful additional little buttons here that you can say, show me whatever the criteria may be just in the last 7 days. So you don't want to be looking at something from 2 years ago. You want to find the recent stuff. Or show me emails that came from me, which also has its uses and stuff. So there's a bunch of different of these kind of not only buttons but keywords for Google search. And of course you can pull down on the right side the little pull down menu here, and you can actually type these search criteria in here. If you don't know to use the word subject, for example, as a part of the criteria, you just type it in here in the subject line. and it says has the words. You can tell it what words it has. You can tell it the negative, what words you don't want to be finding. You can give it the size of the emails in terms of attachment size, how big or how small it should be. You can say search within any of these number of days, weeks, months, and so on, even a year. You can tell it to search all email or certain folders, like you can just say to search in drafts. Okay, so all of these things are easily creatable and doable by just making these selections here, and then it'll do a search. It's what they call advanced search. Okay, and so combination of being able to find stuff, easily create it, easily change it, and then potentially even setting up these bookmarks so you can easily get to them without worrying about what to search for, that makes it a very compelling use argument, in my opinion, and I think it's super useful. So in my case, I set up this label called collections, and you can do the same thing as the main label, and then the other stuff I set up under it, since you can set up labels as a subcategory of another label, makes it easier to manage this way, because you can see these are my collections right here, as opposed to be setting up just a bunch of different names. It makes it very convenient this way. I have a label called collections. Underneath it I have a label called images. You click on that, pulls up these three, text notes, these two, and I just set up just a couple because I was thinking about this whole process, but I'm going to be doing a lot more of this. And so I'm going to have all kinds of different categories specifically for tracking different things. Like you could potentially track a project where you can set up a label for that particular project, and then you have all kinds of different drafts with various pieces of information about the project, so you can see it all in one place. And when I say see it all in one place, it comes up like this. You click on it, and each one of these emails then has the information you can see. Now, the negative side of this, the thing that I don't like, but there's really nothing you can do about it, is if I have these three images here, I can't see them all at the same time. You see right here, I know these are images, but I can't see them. So I have to click on the actual entry here to see it come up, and then it goes ahead and I can see the image. If I want to see this one, I click on that, it opens it up right next to it, which is kind of nifty and convenient. But now I'm eating up the entire screen. So if I click on the third one, because I can kind of see it, then you can see it minimize the first one, and I can only see the second. If you have more, it's just going to continue to do that. I still have all three of them available to me because they're all right here. They're just minimized. And so in terms of being able to see a bunch of things, like for example, see something like this, you know, like you see in File Explorer, that's not what it's for. Okay, if you want to see that, this tool is not going to do the job. At the same time, what you can do, you can use the functionality it does have. You can still pull up the stuff and you can still see the image. And, you know, I think for my purposes, that's very useful. And so without doing too much talking about the same thing, I hope you understand the concept in terms of storing anything and everything in these draft messages, and then being able to search for them easily and find them easily and things like that, using either a combination of labels or using particular searching for whatever words are in the subject line or the main email. That's the beauty, is you can search for anything and it's going to come up for you. Just at the end, remember to add the words in : draft, and that way you're going to limit all your searching to be just in that particular folder, if you're actually going to type the search criteria up here. But if you're going to have the criteria, like for example for a label, you just simply click on the label and it's going to come up with that automatically, and it's going to drop the search criteria in there for you. And if you want to set up a bookmark or a bunch of bookmarks for these various collections, you can definitely do so very easily by just dragging the icon next to the address directly into your bookmarks bar, or clicking add to bookmarks by clicking on the star, selecting wherever you want it to be. That's just like any other bookmark. If you understand the concept, then you can see that you can take it to a completely different level. Thank you. I hope you find this helpful. Till next time, I'm Oleg.